Hello, and welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, the podcast where we discuss books, genre, industry, and other aspects of our geeky lives. I am Elle Klaus. I write fantasy romance, and I am joined today with my regular co-hosts, Paulina Woods.
Hello.
And A.R. DeClerc, who is not answering. And we have a friend of the show, Isabel Torrey, who also writes paranormal romance. Say hello.
Hi.
So this is a author mixer, so we have a topic that we're going to try to stick to, but it's probably not going to stay there if you listen to any of the previous episodes. We're going to start with news. Does anyone want to go first? I feel bad going first because I'm the host, so no one's waving at me. Okay, so last week I had a release. I released a steampunk novella called Besotted, which is part of my Chaos Factor series. The first 2 short stories in that series are free on Amazon. And my newsletter, so if you're like, what the hell is steampunk romance? Go check those out, and my release was 99 cents. My audiobook for Stealing the Wolf Prince came out, which is really cool because I asked the narrator to do Irish accents for the characters. I'm very happy with how that turned out. My kids started school. Oh, and I finished this crocheted snake for my youngest, which I can't show you because he's sleeping with it. So I guess he likes it. So, A.R. DeClerc, do you want to share your news?
Sure. I'd love to share my news. I don't really have much news to share. I finished a short story that will be a prequel short story for the Takamo Universe Project, which is MMORPG video game universe that's being created by the Takamo Universe Project. So there are several authors writing backstory for the video game, and I just finished a short story for that. And I finished a novel that will be included in a box set coming out in the fall, so I was kind of happy for that. It's in the editing process right now. My kids are back in school. My job during the day is crazy, but things are starting to settle down, so that's a plus. And ready for fall to start because I love apple cider and bonfires and sweaters and fuzzy socks. So that's pretty much my news for this episode. Paulina, what's your news?
I actually have none. I'm working on edits on 2 books. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they come out. Well, one should be out in October, the middle of October. The other one I'm still not sure about. Yeah, all I'm doing is editing right now. I'm not even trying to write anything new, so that's done. I don't have any kids, so no kids are off to school. I have a dog. Apparently she likes blowing wind and searing my nose. Yeah, that's about it. I'm good on my news.
Isabel?
Let's see. My kids went back to school, thank God, because I'm pretty sure my sanity was at its limit. I re-released an older book that I had with a publisher in 2015 that had closed. So that came out with Wild Rose Press, which was like exciting because they're RWA approved, which was like one of my goals. So that made me happy. I started under another pen name writing young adult books because my kids want to read my stuff, and I'm like, well, you can't read mommy stuff. So I make them their own little series that they're reading. I found a really awesome recipe for broccoli and beef and broccoli, so I'm gonna try that because I love to bake and cook, and that's pretty much it in my world.
Yeah, I am looking forward to the colder weather. It's like 88 degrees here. I live in Western Michigan, and the humidity is like 75%. So it's like you go outside and you're like walking into a swamp, and it's just awful. But the pumpkin spice flavored everything is out, so hopefully that means it'll get colder and the leaves will change color and it'll be pretty, and I'll be able to wear my sweaters and scarves and all the crap I knit throughout the year. And the next thing I want to make, as far as my knitting or yarn projects, is if you've seen online these hats that have like the Viking horns and these big beards. I want to make one for my husband, and he's like, I will totally wear that when I'm shoveling snow. So I hope that turns out. I found some really nice free patterns, and I can share my free patterns in the notes if anyone's actually interested. Does anyone else knit or crochet? Everyone's shaking their head. Well, you don't know what you're missing.
Sore fingers and stabbing my boyfriend because I'm mad at him. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I do both. My grandmother taught me how to crochet, so it's kind of like a way to remember her. So my mom can't knit or crochet, but she sews, and I can't sew. So I'm whatever. So our topic today was sharing, and I know we have all authors on the panel right now, but like what our fans might want to know about us aside from just our writing updates, because it is kind of tedious for all the updates fans are getting is, oh, I'm writing, oh, I'm editing, oh, I'm writing, I'm editing. Well, that's not very exciting for someone who's not in the business, so they don't understand what that may or may not mean. So what sort of things do you currently share on your social media, either through your newsletters or your Facebook posts or any other social media that you do? Who wants to go first?
Well, usually I had only post like, you know, I'm editing, I'm writing. Oh, look, here's a picture of someone I think is really cool. And I was talking, I think I talked to everybody about this, but I put a post up because I talked to my little sister who runs her business. And I was like, well, how do I get more people interested and, you know, excited about my books, willing to spread news? And she goes, well, be more open. Not as open as her, but, you know, just get more people talking. She posts something, and within 10 minutes, she already has about 25 comments, and she sells clothing. So then when, you know, when she needs money, they're more willing to help, you know, like, oh, I just have a prototype, who wants to buy it for such and such? They go ahead and they pay for it. And I was like, well, how do I do that without oversharing? And because, oh my God, she showed a picture of her shaving her legs, and then she shows a picture of her eating. Then she shows a picture of her getting up in the morning and drinking coffee. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not that open. So I posted it on Facebook, and hold on. I posted it on Facebook, and I asked some of them, what do you guys want to see? And a lot of them were like, don't share too much, but, you know, no one needs to know about your schedule of work. Well, duh. The one person, let me see, hold on. She goes, half open book is good. You know, tell us about your Halloween costumes. Tell us about your dinner. I'm like, really? You want to know what I ate? Good. You know, so they want to be more, they want to hear more about you other than your writing. So I tried that today and actually got a little bit more feedback on my author page. So I'll shut up now.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, the whole purpose of this show is to talk. I like to share. I'm the same with you. Like, I like to share pictures that I like, and I do like to update where I am in my process. I have a lot of things going all at once, though, so sometimes it's hard for me to remember what I shared and what I didn't share. But I do find if I share things like the snake that I crocheted or the cookies I just made, I get a lot more interaction. And I think that just being able to show that we're not writing machines, that people can relate more. And I get a lot of people that comment on, you know, my cookies, like, I want to be able to make that, or what was the recipe, or stuff like that. And I think they just want to relate.
I agree with the relating part, but also remember, Just a side story is like my sister, she, like I said, overshares, and she used to have people like show up at her job and kind of interrupt business there, and which, you know, got kind of in the way of her manager saying, you know, well, what's up, what's going on. So, I mean, you don't want to give out your personal business, but you still want, oh, like I say, hey, I'm in Southern California or I'm in San Diego, but I'm not going to tell you I live on such and such street and this is my address. Come visit me and let's hang out for a party. But some people actually, I've seen people say, hey, you know, let's meet up and drink at a bar. And I'm like, no, not going to happen for me.
I think that some people get a little confused too, that like authors like us, we're supposed to have a Facebook page, and that's where we're supposed to actually conduct most of our social media interaction. This is just per Facebook policy, but they also have a profile. So, you know, when you go to Facebook and you log in, that's your like profile, and then you create a page. A lot of people get confused between what you're encouraged to do on your profile and what you're encouraged to do on your page. And even me, I use my profile under my pen name because Al Klaus is not my real name. And I do limit details there. If I post anything about my kids, I always use a filter so that only specific people can see it, and I don't post anything too detailed as far as if someone really wanted to hunt me down. I mean, I suppose they could if they were really, really dedicated, but I don't make it easy for them. But yeah, I've seen some people post some very detailed information about their lives. I'm friends with an author, and she's posting about her job, and she works at an elementary school, and I'm like, I wouldn't share that because you're involving kids. So I wouldn't want someone to hyper focus on that aspect and just cause some trouble. And I like to keep things lighthearted, so I don't share my political views. Well, maybe I should say that. I don't harp on my political views. I do share them. And if someone really wants to discuss something with me, I'll have an educated conversation with somebody. But if it resorts to name calling, I'll call you a turd and unfriend you. But I try to keep things lighthearted and mostly stick with my brand, which is fantasy romance, steampunk romance. I might do some paranormal and sci-fi down the road, but I am a big Star Trek dork. So, Amy, what kind of things do you like to share, and what kind of engagement did you find you get with those things?
I'm one of those people who has a lot of crossover between my personal profile and my author page. I have a lot of people who are both my personal, quote-unquote, personal friend and also like my author page. People see pictures of my kids, rarely my oldest because she doesn't like photographs, but they see pictures of my animals. You know, they know a lot about my personal life, and that's fine, I think, at the point where I am right now as an author. I mean, I don't have any crazy stalker followers that I know of, but I don't think it would be hard for somebody to figure out where I live, where I work, those things, if they really wanted to. Author page, though, I try to keep it to books. I try to keep it to writing. My fangirling ways, so shows I love, music I love, books I found that I like, new author reading. I really get the best engagement, though, on my Name This Movie posts. Because I'll create my "Can you guess this movie from these emojis?" posts, and I'll post them on my author page, and then everybody's piping in trying to guess which movie it is just based on the emojis that I used to describe the movie. So things like that are pretty good. Sometimes I'll just ask a question like, do you prefer the sun or the rain? Or would you rather, you know, have a happy ever after or a happy for now? You know, sometimes I'll just ask questions to try to get engagement, but I do try to keep my author page strictly about writing, about the craft. I love to post pictures. I take stuff off Pinterest all the time that I think are interesting or remind me of my characters. A lot of steampunk costumes, a lot of steampunk imagery. just to try to familiarize people who pop on my page with what I write. So I try to keep all that stuff together. And I will, like I said, I cross over to my personal page all the time with things I've posted on my Facebook page, my author page. But yeah, I try to keep it pretty business-like, try to be book savvy, book centered, movies, music, fandoms, that kind of stuff. And I try not to get on too many rants. I try not to do politics. I've had to unfriend 2 brother-in-laws because of that, so we'll be friends again after the election's over, and that's fine. But, you know, I tend to, I don't mind a good debate, but I try to avoid it on my author page as much as I can. I don't really want drama on there. I want everybody to know about my books, know what I'm doing, and that's about it. So I'll pass it on to Ish and see what she's got to say.
Well, I think the biggest part for me is I try, and if you actually look at my profile, my author profile page, I'm very scattered. Sometimes I do every day at least 1 post a day. That's generally my goal. But then I'm gone for days or sometimes even weeks. I, myself, am not a very open person with anybody. Doesn't matter who it is. Even my mother. I'm just not a very open person. And it's hard. It really is hard for me to decide what I want to share. Even right now on this podcast, I'm like, what am I going to tell these people? I mean, I love you guys. I do, but I don't like to share. When I started writing, like, you know, you said back then, it wasn't, oh, here's this about me, you know, oh, and plus I also write. It was, I write, that was it. There was no tweet, you know, Twitter, there was no Facebook. It was you went to the store and you bought a book. You had a little bio on the back of your favorite author, and that's all you got. And I kind of like that. You know, I want to have fans. I want them to know things about me, but in a social media era that we're in, you can't just get away with, I went to college here, I like to bake cookies. You know, like Paulina said, they want to know those little added things. They want to play those games. You know, and it's hard. It's hard for somebody like me to do it. So when you guys see me gone, you know why. I'm really having a hard time. The one thing I do have is I'm a gamer. Because you can be whoever you want to be behind a keyboard on a game. So, you know, I post a lot of I'm gaming pics, and that probably actually hurts me because, quite frankly, most of the gamers don't read fantasy romance. You know, they read your hard sci-fi and things like that. They don't read your heavy-duty romance. So it actually hurts me, but that's what I have. So I guess that's all I have to say.
I don't think that you alienate people, because that's actually our perfect demographic, because I play video games. It may not be like the MMORPGs or whatever, but like I grew up playing Final Fantasy, I think Dragon Warrior for Nintendo, and then Chrono Trigger for Super Nintendo, and Final Fantasy, you know, all these role-playing games, Secret of Mana. And I also play The Sims. Like The Sims 4 is the current one. I kind of got lost in a video game called Stardew Valley. Lost a lot of hours to that game, and it gave me a story idea. And I just started playing Minecraft on Xbox. I don't think that you're alienating people. I think that you're just trying to find your demographic, because those people that actually get lost in video games, they're probably also readers, and half of gamers are female, and you can't tell me that that's not going to be your demographic. I know Paulina plays video games, and she plays, what are some of the games that you play?
I play Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Legend. Oh, I play so many, but I was saying about the romance part. I love the part of Dragon Age. I go have sex as much as I can. I'd be like, oh, look, characters, go have sex. Woo! And same thing in Mass Effect. So there is romance in it. I like that part of it. So I think that reaching out to girl gamers is a key, because I'm not going to play all the time, and sometimes I'll play for 4 or 5 hours, and then I'll read. So if we get people who are the same as us, like, who wants to read, who wants to play video games, that's a pretty, that's kind of untapped, I think.
Yeah, I think you're dead on there, especially with the way that female gamers have been treated by the industry. I think if they get more kind of radio or outlying items catering to them, I think that it's really going to be beneficial. So I don't think that you're alienating anybody by saying, hey, I'm playing such video game, or here's a screenshot of what I just did or what I built. I think that you're just playing to your demographic, and I think that's great. Amy, do you play any video games aside from like Facebook stuff?
I actually don't play any games. I prefer puzzle games. So actually the last game that I played was Professor Layton and the Unwound Future for PSP. So like literally that long ago. I like Scrabble, I like word games, I like puzzle games, I like word searches, things like that. Like I even have crossword for like my phone that I play. So I mean, I don't play a lot of, my husband is the gamer of the family, so he plays all the MMORPGs. He's into all of that stuff, and I just don't have the hand-eye coordination for it. Like the last time we played Battlefield together, he was laughing because there was a whole bunch of guys in the room, and he mauled, and then I stepped in and fired a shot after everyone was dead. And then he always makes fun of me because I'm always walking left. So yeah, I'm not very good at it. I suppose that's probably why I don't play, because I'm not very good at it. But, it's one of those things. My husband played World of Warcraft. Right now he's playing, what is he playing? I don't know what he's playing. Oh, Borderlands. So he's in and out. So I'm exposed to it, but I don't play it myself. Final Fantasy, a lot of times, I like the stories, so I'll sit there and watch all the cinema scenes with him. And then he'll do the gameplay, because that's not really my thing. We talked about how much authors share on their pages and how much they share about their lives, and Ish said that, back in the day, quote unquote, you were just a blur book, and I think that's so true, and that's something that came to me. I look back on like my favorite authors. I don't know what Madeline L'Engle's husband's name was. I don't know how many kids she had, and I don't know what I had for breakfast on Tuesday, September 27th, 1947. None of those things mattered back then, because all they were was a blurb on the back of the book. And you know a lot about him. He doesn't do a lot of TV interviews. You can read magazine articles and Rolling Stone and whatnot, but he doesn't overshare. And so I just wonder, the age of self-publishing and the age of ebooks, do you guys think that's what brought on this need is it like social media that brought on this need to know everything about the person who wrote the book you're reading? Like, I've even done it. I'll read a book by an author that I discovered on Kindle, never heard anything about, and I'll search that person on Google and look at their Facebook or look at their author page or look at their website, because I want to know more about them. But I didn't do that when I was, a senior in high school. I didn't do that when I was a freshman and found a book I liked. So do you think it's the age of ebooks?
Yes, and also you have to remember, in that time we had the internet, but you have to admit we're all a little older, even though we don't want to say so. And I think that because we're a little older now, what we went through is, we didn't share, because our parents always told us, be careful of the stranger, be careful of, you don't want to get, abducted or whatever. So now in this day and age, I think 5-year-olds are kind of oversharing. So I think it is a little bit about, this age, and they want to know. Like, authors nowadays who try to keep secrets, like, oh, I don't want to be out there, they have a harder time, because readers don't care. Readers want to say, hey, is this person human? And then they want to sit there and, get mad at you and send you emails. But I think they want that connection, and it has to happen now for us to move forward.
I think that with the popularity of the internet and things like Netflix and Kindle Unlimited through Amazon and other binge consuming capabilities, that's really influenced the way that people interact with celebrities and authors and people in general, because they can have access to that information. I think before the internet became widely available, it wasn't there. If you wanted to find something, you had to go to the library or, you know, mail a letter for information. It's just the availability of information is so much easier now, even if it's false information, that yeah, I mean, now if you don't have a Facebook page, you're not going to go anywhere. If you don't have a website or a blog, no one can find you. I think it's the advent of the binge consuming, and you can thank, you know, the internet for that. And it's a progression. Like, everything's going to change, and I can say in 5 years the way that we handle our marketing as authors is going to be different than now or 5 years ago. But yeah, I do kind of wish I would have started earlier, building my platform earlier, when it was just you're a picture on the back of a book. There's a little, you know, this is why I do what I do, and here's my cat, and that's it. You didn't have to worry about keeping the audience engaged between books, because honestly, all I want to do is write. What's that?
I was going to ask, do you think that it's largely a self-publish or small press issue? Because I can't tell you the last time that I saw a traditionally pubbed author, you know, like a big name, really put themselves out there on the internet. I mean, when they do, they're inviting a lot of negativity too, and I understand why they wouldn't want to do that. But I mean, you can find J.K. Rowling on Twitter, and she's very active, and the same with a few others. But you're talking the big quote unquote name who have been around for a while. They still maintain their popularity, but they don't put it out there like a lot of other people, just because they don't need to. They already have their readership. They don't need to build that. Is that why, do you think? Or is it a self-published versus, you know, traditional published issue?
Oh, sorry.
Well, it could be kind of both. Like with a publishing company, you got to understand it's a business. So if they have an author that is selling, they're going to spend their advertising dollars on that author. They're going to get them to book conventions and book signings, and they're going to get them advertisements, whatever they do. And if they have an author that doesn't sell, or doesn't sell the volume that they expect, they will not spend money on advertising. And that's not to say that they're not selling okay. You know, there's this idea that it's, I don't know, the big publishing kind of seems to be deal in absolutes. You are successful or you're not. They don't have the mid-list. And with indie publishing, you have the mid-listers. There's the people that they don't necessarily hit the New York Times, but they make enough to live from their books. They have an avid fan base. They get well-read, well-reviewed books, but they wouldn't be considered a success in the way that the publishers would say that they're successful. So as the business model, you can see that they wouldn't spend their advertising dollars on somebody that isn't a J.K. Rowling or isn't Stephen King. Was that similar to what you were going to say, Paulina?
No. Like, I agree with what you said, but when she was talking about how more of the traditional publishers aren't out there, I was like, Sharon Kenyon, I know a lot about her family, her husband, her kids. The only thing we don't know is their names. Like, when I go to signings, she'll talk about her oldest son, her youngest son, her daughter, her husband, her brother. You can never find their names anywhere. I mean, even online, I follow them, you know, faithfully. Her, Sharon Kenyon, Like they show pictures of Sharon Kenyon doesn't show pictures of her kids, but Kristen Feehan does. She showed pictures of her house, her kids, her grandkids. Again, no names. It's interesting how they kind of say, "Hey, look, I'm human," but you don't need to know you don't need to know the intimate details. So I mean, I've seen a lot of bigger name authors do that instead of, you know, not sharing. They just kind of omit stuff, which I think is actually fair. I mean, it's kind of weird. Now we were talking about this. I'm sitting here thinking, what is her kid's name? I know all her characters, but I don't know her kid's or husband's name. I couldn't pick Sharon Kenyon's kids out of a lineup. There's no pictures, but yet I can tell you every antic they've ever done since they were little. So it's kind of like, you know, if you find that balance.
Do you think that share or that the readers need to know about authors is a romance-centric thing? Is it mostly romance authors that people want to know the juicy details? I mean, do you care that much? You know, do you want to know everything about him? He writes, you know, a great thriller. I mean, Tom Clancy and Clive Cussler and all these other people, like, they don't really have that presence that you see a lot of romance writers and then children's authors and young adult authors. I'm going to lump them in there with romance writers as well. It seems like it's genre division too. Do you guys notice that when you're? I mean, I'm sure you all have authors you love to read and are interested in. Is there certain that you're more apt to go searching for your, you know, for the author information? Because I mean, if I read a good spy novel, I don't necessarily need to know everything about the life of the dude who wrote it. I mean, so I don't know if it's just me or if that's everybody.
I actually don't research authors, and like I'll follow them on Facebook sometimes, but I don't research them because I know characters. Even when I watch TV, my boyfriend, he'll be like, "Oh, so and so was in a movie." I was like, "What? Oh, I'm sorry, Captain America." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank you." I'm like, "Give me the characters. Don't give me the name of the actor. I don't care. I see the person. I see the actor. I see the person the actor's portraying, not who he is." Same thing with books. I don't see an author, and sometimes really don't want to know what the author looks like because I'm reading a sex scene and I really don't want to know what that author looks like. I'm sorry. Or her spouse, and you know what I mean? So I don't go and search. So I don't know if some people do just because, but I researched Tom Clancy when I was in 6th grade because I liked Hunt for the Red October. So I mean, maybe it's just a person.
Well, it might be an issue of they overshare or they share a lot more than somebody like Stephen King because they want to keep themselves in the mind of the reader. A lot of times you hear that you want to post frequently so that no one forgets about you, and we are in an era where people can publish on a whim. They can write a 25,000 word gobbledygook and post it on Amazon's Kindle. There's no type of quality check there until people start saying, "Hey, this isn't good," you know. So I think that in order to kind of stay in people's minds, they have to share a lot of information. So the big authors that have their established fan base and they have their established career, you know, if they choose to share pictures of their dog or funny stories about their kids, I think that's just personality. But for the people that are trying to be discovered and trying to stay within the minds of their readers that can't produce a book a month, because I know people who can write a book a month, and that's probably a novella or something shorter. So they share on social media so that they just don't get lost in the fray, because there's new authors coming out all the time. I constantly see advertisements for new authors through my feed because I have a lot of romance authors either friended or like their page. So I can't really say that I have actively hunted them down to follow them, but you know, I want to be recognized among my peers. So I have a lot of fantasy authors or romance authors on my friends page. And I can think back, and I have favorite authors, but I've never actually actively internet stalked them. And maybe it's a generational thing. All I want to know is when they have a new release. That's all I care about, but that's personal preference. You do have people that want to know that I knit a stupid hat or whatever.
I think generational is actually probably a really good kind of guess for the reason that maybe the four of us don't quite do all those things that we find some of our readers doing, because they are maybe millennials, and they're of that generation where the internet has always existed, and this idea that everyone is an open book and everything you eat gets food and everything that you think gets put on social media, and every time your cat farts you tell everybody about it. So I do agree that it might actually be a completely generational thing, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. But and two, we were talking about it, and it just crossed my mind too. The sheer number of published authors that exist nowadays, like, it is really hard to stand out in a crowd of people. So if getting on social media and letting your freak flag fly, so to speak, and gathering readers around you who like the same things you like or who have interests that you have, if that's what you got to do to, bring them to your books, I mean, I think that's kind of, we all find ourselves sometimes with our marketing plans is, how do I attract that, person who's going to like what I write? And sometimes you have to share yourself to, say, these are the things I like, these are the things you might find in my books. And sometimes, I mean, that might be the only way to get noticed in that giant, I mean, because we're all a little really, really, really big pond of writers nowadays. And I don't necessarily think that it has anything to do with the quality of the work, or the fast you can spit one out, or anything like that. I really think it has more to do with the fact of, can you stand out in a crowd?
You have a marketing plan? I don't have a marketing plan. And maybe that's where I'm going astray. It's like I just share, like, I don't even plan I know with Facebook posts you can plan your posts throughout the day, and you can use applications like Buffer and stuff, and I totally don't. Whenever I see something on Facebook that I'm like, ooh, I like that because it's a fantasy picture or something, I'm like, I'll share that on my page, and I'll try to come up with something witty, which I can't always do if I haven't had my coffee. But yeah, I totally don't have a marketing plan. Maybe I should do that. Okay, so yeah, I was thinking about what you said with the generational thing, and I remember in high school that was when we got, I think it was Windows 95 and dial-up internet. And I know that we were the first people online because my dad worked in the tech industry at the time. So we actually had a dedicated line for the internet, so we wouldn't have to, kick people off the phone when we needed to use the internet, if you remember that. And we had AOL, America Online, and you remember going into the chat rooms, and the first thing you do when you hit the chat room, because I was a teenager, so, hormone-driven, was ASL. Does anyone remember what that means? Yeah, no, meet yourself.
Age, language, sex.
Age, sex, location.
Yes, location. Something like that. It was horrible.
It was awful. I'm like, how did we function? But oh my goodness, yeah. So and
I
then
had a pager.
I had a pager. I thought it was so cool. I had a pager, and then you had to find a phone booth because you were out. You had to hope you have a quarter until they raise the price, and then you have to find a phone so that you can actually call a freaking number on your pager, and they're like, "Where are you?"
I had a pager and parents who did not want a telephone. So
Oh,
explain
goodness.
to me how that worked. So until I was 16 or 18 years old, my parents never had a phone in the house because they didn't. And yeah, so I had a pager, but I had to go to the neighbor's house to call the number back that paged me. So how's that for old school? Like, that's really old school. That's like 1890s old school.
Got my
Do you
first
remember-
cell phone. I got my first cell phone when I was about 26. I think I was pregnant with the twins. And it was so old that it actually had an antenna you had to pull out to use it. And I couldn't get reception anywhere.
Do you remember Nextels? This freaking cheap sound that they would do when you click them. They're like they're cell phones, but you could use them as kind of walkie-talkies. And nobody used them as a cell phone. So like you'd be at the store and you hear the cheep, and then somebody talking. So it's like ridiculously loud. And like, I don't want to listen to your private conversation. Can you maybe call them on your phone? Oh my goodness. I have that problem now with my parents, actually. They kind of take every phone call on speaker. I'm like, can you not do that? Anyway, I think we've gotten totally off the topic.
My mom does that though. She'll call me and then she's like, "Don't say anything. I'm on speaker." I'm like, "Then take me off speaker if I can't say anything." She's like, "I don't want people to hear our conversation." Then take me off. Never mind, Mom.
You've probably seen there's a meme that goes around that's got like a picture of just a toilet and it says like 1 minute, and then it's got a toilet and a phone, it's like 5 minutes, and then it's got a toilet, phone, and something else 30 minutes, and toilet, phone, and the power cord like 5 hours. I'm like, oh my god, that's sadly accurate. And I really hate it when I'm in a public restroom and people are like having massively private conversations on their phone in the restroom. I'm like, this is not a private facility. And there's 10 stalls in here and they're all full. Why am I hearing about your baby daddy? I don't know. Well, the internet and phones. So now that I've overshared.
Hold on. Why does it have to be your baby daddy? I feel offended.
No, seriously, I overheard that conversation today. Yeah, I'm very intimate with their family now. So we are actually approaching the top of the hour. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to cover before we wrap things up? Because I know we got slightly off topic. Everyone's staring at me blankly.
I am good, thank you very much.
All right.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so next week we're actually doing an interview, and I believe you folks are going to be interviewing me, right? That's what we agreed on? Okay, and
yes. When do you want the questions and all that stuff?
You know what? You just throw them at me. I would
Okay.
rather just shoot from the hip. That is fine. I'm generally pretty PC unless I get, drunk or hangry. So, and then we may have technical difficulties because apparently Google Hangouts is changing formats, or they're discontinuing Google Hangouts, so we'll have to figure out how to do this through YouTube Live. So I will try to troubleshoot that during the week, and hopefully we won't have interruptions. But, last week we couldn't make it because 2 of the 4 people were stranded on the side of the road. So, if anyone has nothing else, I say that we bid you adieu. And no one has anything else. So I'm Elle Klaus for Focus on Fantasy Romance. If you have any questions, you can stop by focusonfantasyromance.wordpress.com. I also have an email address that focusonfantasyromance@gmail.com. Did I say that twice? WordPress, Gmail. If you like the show or have any questions, please comment, like, share. You know how the internet works. Get us out there. So, a good night, everybody.